Hello, and welcome to the Higher Expectations Podcast with the Higher Advantage, where we dive into real conversations with real people about how to build your wealth, how to enjoy life, and stay inspired along the way. We have special guests, and each one of them is going to have their own stories, inspirations, knowledge, and information that you can learn from. Today is my special guest. We have this guy over here. First, I'm going to introduce Josh.
Hey, everybody. Hey, everybody.
My co-host, Josh. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Awesome. Excited.
Who do we got with us today, Josh?
Yeah, we have Irvin Pacheco, the owner of Inview Media,
Hey.
the #1 media company out here in the Antelope Valley. And we will touch on that more throughout this episode. But first, wanted to open it up to Irvin and just kind of explain how we first met and how we came about to be friends. You know, we've known each other about 5 or 6 years now. Mm-hmm. And I kind of want to throw it on Irvin because I've heard it from my point of view, but I want to see from his point of view how we came about and how our relationship developed.
Yeah, I believe it was through social media. At the time, I was just starting the real estate photography business as far as like for the photo and video. And at that time, the algorithm was a little bit more friendlier as far as sharing to others, not just to your followers, I would say. And you didn't have to pay to play. So anything that I would post, it would actually send it out to the Antelope Valley or to the areas that I was actually targeting at the time. And I'm not sure how you found me because you were the one that actually messaged me directly, asking me, hey, are you able to do a certain type of video? And you sent me, I guess, your version that you had shot in, I guess, at that time. And I looked at it, I'm like, I'm pretty sure I can, you know, it's nothing, it won't be too hard to replicate.
Hey, it was good back then, but when we look at it now, I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Pretty funny.
Yeah, it is pretty funny.
Yeah, but I'm actually happy that it did happen the way that it did because, you know, we became friends through the process. And I think maybe because we're within the same age range, it was easier for me to actually talk to you, not just on the business side, but just personal stuff, you know, like at the time that, what was 5-6 years ago, we're still in early 30s or maybe 29.
Yeah.
So we're still fairly young. And of course I had just gotten started on my business side. So even till this day, I still ask you guys a lot of questions when it comes to even like small stuff that maybe doesn't have to do all the time with the real estate, but I do have that curious mind when it comes to finances. And every now and then I'll ask a certain question about whatever it might be that's going on within the time. And either you or Ron, if you guys are present, I do like to have those conversations. And from that buildup of just knowing that I could come to you guys, just having just a casual conversation where I know I'm kind of getting something out of it and it's something positive, the relationship has built off of, you know, just knowing that I could trust you guys in that aspect as well.
100%. And that, I guess that kind of brings me to the first question that I have is, you know, where did you get your start? How did you pick up a camera? Like, tell us about Irvin, your early years, and how you kind of developed to who you are now.
Yeah. So as far as my story, to keep it short, I honestly believe my story has to do a lot with my immigration status. I'm from Mexico. I was brought here at the age of 3. And of course, from 3 up to high school, you don't really think about that stuff just because you have everything that is given government funding as far as like from elementary, junior high, high school. And once you get out of high school, you start to realize what you really are if you don't have some sort of standing in the United States. So at the time, I didn't have a social, I didn't have a license, I didn't have a work permit, and I couldn't even apply to McDonald's. I couldn't apply to anywhere as far as like within that era because now everything was digitalized. So there was prior times where people that didn't have a social that would just put a fake social on a piece of paper resume, and here you go. You go to Target now, they're going to point you to a computer. If not, hey, go online and you could do your resume. Yeah. So it's not like I had the ability to even kind of even want to cheat if I wanted to, like as far as like that ability, like I'm going to work at McDonald's. I'm just going to write a random number. Yeah. It wasn't for me. So I had to create an avenue where I was able to have a small amount of income while I was going to college. So I had the decision, I could go work with my dad construction or I could go to college. Now for me, it wasn't a want to say that I wouldn't have gone to go work with my dad as far as like, if there's nothing wrong with it. But my aunts that come visit us, they would always tell us like, you have to be better than your parents. That was a sacrifice that they gave you guys. You know, the opportunity to come here was not to be the same. You know, there's nothing wrong with hard labor, but as far as progressing and the opportunity and the risk that my parents took, there has to be a form of a purpose. And it's not to stay the same, it's to be a little bit better. I'm not saying be greater, just extend your hand to the opportunity that is now being handed to you. Now, it wasn't handed to me because, like I said, I didn't have the opportunity to work at McDonald's. I had to create a job. And at the time, I was going to go to school as a music teacher. I'd been playing guitar, the trumpet since I was elementary school. So from there, I kind of just started going into like, let me see if anybody wants guitar lessons. And I started on Craigslist, and from Craigslist, the community kind of just, accepted, the offer that I was giving, and people started getting to know me little by little. And I think it was just I think what you guys like is that I'm 10 minutes early, those little things, like those little attributes, I still take that back to that time. I would show up early, have my lesson plans ready. I would understand my students. I was teaching myself how to become a teacher while I was going to school to be a teacher. Mm-hmm. And then after I got my AA, I started to realize that even having a piece of paper doesn't give me a guarantee of work, because I still didn't have a work permit at the time. I didn't have a license. I think my first cell phone, I was at 24, 25. So everything had developed a little bit slower for me. So within my reach of wanting to become something more, I had to then go and grab things like not tangible, but like literally, it's more of a just like in my head, I'm like, I have to create my own jobs and create my own opportunities with the opportunity as is presented here.
Because no one's handing it to you.
Exactly. So I was in a band. I started doing photos for my band. I went to Best Buy, picked up a camera. My singer at the time was going to get married. I told her, hey, I'm going to offer you, a free video for your wedding. And I didn't know what it was going to entail. I was just excited to use my camera, right? Yeah. And I'm like, oh, this is work. This is a lot of work. I will never do this for free again. That kind of thing. So from the guitar lessons, I bought the camera. From the camera, I started building my portfolio on Facebook, Instagram, literally through the weddings, engagements. I even did a maternity shoot here and there. And then from there, my portfolio grew into a template where it now became real estate because I had a drummer in my band that was a realtor. He needed headshots. I offered free headshots. And that's the one thing I would like to say to any entrepreneur, if you're going to get into any type of specific niche, is don't charge I guess the want that you want to do, as far as like if you're building any type of template as far as like your portfolio, I would say almost give it away first, because that's a lesson that you're going to learn, rather than saying, I'm going to take your money and I'm going to learn off of the lessons off of your money. I would rather say, let me just use my time. And I know you're giving your time too, because they're delivering the time that they're, like sitting down, So you have to respect that time that people are giving you.
Your pay is learning from the experience of doing the service for somebody and learning the lessons from that, things you need to tweak, get better at.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I took it too. Like it took me about 2 years until like I started really getting to like actual like more business oriented, what I would do testimonials for a lending office. Yeah. And then got to know more realtors. From the realtors, they asked me like, hey, do you do real estate photography? I said no, but I would always say I'm more than willing to try, and at least pay me for the gas, Yeah. And from there, it kind of like, from those lessons that I kind of gathered, I started building my knowledge of actually how to do it. And then I started building my little packages that I thought at the time were reasonable. And I'm pretty sure everybody misses those prices, because now it's not the same.
No.
And then from there, I guess around that same sector of time, I met you through Instagram, I believe. Yep. And you had send me a message, and I said, yeah, of course. And I do remember that the first listing that I did for you, you didn't show up. I do remember that. And I'm like, oh, he's one of those realtors, He doesn't show up to his listings, which for me, I'm like okay about now, because I know what I'm doing. Yeah. But at the time, I was going into a stranger's house. Yeah. I didn't know if it was the right address. I have never met this realtor. Yeah. I didn't have my system in place where like I have it where it sends you an invoice, and then my assistant sends you the pictures after it's done pending. I didn't have none of that stuff. So I'm like, can I even trust this guy if I'm going to go and shoot it, edit it? Will he even pay me? I have no idea who this guy is. But like I said, I got lucky. I got to meet some really great realtors from the beginning. I can't say all my clients have been great, But those are lessons learned that I have taken in place. And, I've also built off of the business as well.
Well, you learned a lot. I can tell
I've
you
learned
that because the quality of your stuff is really, really good.
Thank you.
We like the drone. We like the stills. We like the videos.
Yeah.
And, you got
Matterport.
The Matterport. I mean, it's an awesome package you put together for everybody.
Thank you.
Really nice. Very good. So you do a lot. We got the video. You got the real estate. You have other businesses. What else you got going on?
Yeah, so I kind of just kept building off of what I was already doing at the time. So I kept doing weddings at the time, but I kind of started to realize that you can't put in as much effort on everything as much as I would want it to. So I had to really start making the decision, like, do I want to do weddings or do I want to do more commercial stuff? And that's kind of where my head went into, like, what avenue do I want and which one is going to give me a greater result long term. Weddings are seasonal. Now, real estate seasonal too, but there's in betweens real estate, there's other stuff that I could be doing. So the testimonial videos, the headshots. I have my studio, which I also have podcasting. I rent that out. Now I currently started the photo booth business, which I was already doing events. I'm just integrate the things that I'm already doing and see what else I could do to make more money off of what I was wherever I'm at.
It's smart.
So all I'm doing right now is just I'm building off of the same idea. I'm like, photos, and then from photo video, the Matterport, the drone, and then now the photo booth, and then the headshots and studio sessions. And yeah, like I'm enjoying everything that I've built off of, but it's definitely a lot.
Yeah, it sounds like a natural progression that you figured out. Like, 'cause not everybody's going to do that. It's like, well, this goes together, and then just put it together. You're already there.
Yeah. I honestly do think it comes from the belief that I could go backwards, and that's kind of like maybe it's a scarcity mindset, but it keeps me motivated every morning. I'm like, I don't feel like working today, but I'm going to go to work today.
And that kind of leads into the question that I had for you, and you partially covered part of it with what you were talking about, but I kind of want to hear it directly from you. Is what gives you that motivation and inspiration to keep going every day? Because all the things that you do, I see from the outside perspective. I know how much time goes into it because I used to do my own photo, used to do my own video, used to do my editing for my editing for Ron, his photo, his videos of his listings before we reached out to you, started using you. So I know how much time goes into that. And then you're running these other businesses on top of that. And it's just, to me, sometimes I look at you and I'm just like, hey, every time we go to a listing, I always give an energy drink to Irvin and his team. Because for me, the way that I look at it is that I want you to feel good when you're shooting. If you feel good when you're shooting, it's going to deliver a better product, I feel. And he never disappoints. But what gives you that motivation and energy to just keep going and, like you said, not give up on your dream?
I don't even think it's motivation, to be honest with you. I think motivation is kind of looked at as something that it's a feeling, but motivation goes away. Like I think it's more of the discipline that I've kind of put in place for myself. And it's a lot of the nuances as far as like what I spoke to from the past, like not having opportunity. Yeah. And then in my head, I would, when I was younger, like when I'm early 20s, I would run a lot. So I'd run like 10 miles and I would imagine my car, like, one day I'll have that car, but I was running. So in my head, I was already envisioning what I wanted, but it was that hunger that kind of like just motivated me to this point. And I think those little moments have sunk in so deep, and now it's become who I am. So I can't say that it's motivation. It's just my life experience that have brought me to this point, but it's also my decisions that I've made for myself as well. Because I've heard a lot of stories as far as like the immigrant that comes here, but yet what are they doing? They don't take advantage. It's not just my story as far as like, I'm not going to generalize it's all immigrants or anything, because it's just people, right? So like people have the opportunity here, they're born here, but yet what are they doing? Yeah. So I can't say it's a point of view of an immigrant. I do believe that there's a lot of immigrants here that are doing great. They build their own businesses. Second generation comes along, third generation comes along, and then kind of falters, they get comfortable. And hopefully it doesn't happen to my family, because, like that's the one thing that I would want if I do have kids. Like I want to really sink that in, like you were given an opportunity that your grandparents gave me, and I took advantage to like build another platform. and now build off of that platform so that the next generation could keep building off of that.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I would say it's more of a discipline than motivation.
So I imagine you get really tired,
all the time. I'm tired right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I imagine you get tired. And for me, with real estate as well, there are times I get tired and I just need a mental break where I'm like a few days, go off, spend time with my family, just a few days, phone off. Phone's never really off, but, try to limit the phone activity and the phone calls and things like that. Just kind of really focus in on my family and their needs and things like that as a parent and as a husband. But that energy level, because I know sometimes it gets depleted. What do you do aside from the business side of it that replenishes the energy that you need just to keep going?
That's a hard one because that's a lesson that I'm still learning currently.
Okay.
That the lesson of like taking days off and knowing how to take them off because I've gotten so used to just doing something every day, whether just fixing something or rebuilding something from the past that I've thought about, but now I'm actually putting into place. Now currently doing something else that I haven't really spoken about. I could probably tell you guys later. But it's I have no idea where this comes from. I'm like, I always tell myself like, you're doing too much, but yet something else comes up and I'm like, okay, here's another thing. And I'm like, why are you doing that? Like, why? Like you're barely holding on to what you have currently. And I feel like a lot of people tell me like, oh, the burnout. But then I look at them like, yeah, but you're not doing anything. Like, how could you tell me I'm going to burn out when yet you haven't tried to do what you want to do on a personal level?
Yeah, you're setting the limitation on yourself as far as how far you can go, but you don't know what that limitation is unless you do it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of for me too. It's like real estate is my life. My family's my life. My family outside of my immediate family is my life. So people ask me all the time, like, hey, I see on social media, you're constantly doing these things with your kids. You're doing this business related, this and that. Like, how do you do all this? How do you handle it? And to me, it's just, I don't ever think about it. I just do it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's what it feels like for you. It's like, I feel it at some point, during the day when I'm ready to hit the bed and I'm like, man, I'm drained. But in the moment, I don't feel it. It's just, it is what it is. This is my life. I picked this career to go down this path to help people buy and purchase, buy and sell homes, which I love doing. And then I love spending time with my kids. I don't miss any extracurricular activities with my kids. That's a huge thing for me. My parents had to work all the time, and they had to work to put food on the table, keep a roof over the head. And I remember talking to myself when I was a young kid, and different things that we ran into in my life where we had a little bit of hardship growing up. I told myself, my kids are never going to experience that. I'm going to make sure that I work my butt off and my wife obviously has that drive, being from Ron. Ron is very driven and she has got that from Ron, but we're both very driven together. And because of that, it's like, I want my kids to be educated on what life could be, if we don't work hard, but I don't want them to ever experience that. So I always tell them when they go to school with my kids, I always tell them, hey, do your best that you can in school. That's all I ever ask of you. Do your best. I want you to be the best kid that you can be. You be respectful. You say, please, thank you. You never disrespect your teachers, all those things. But sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent there. But, the energy levels, like for me, it's just, I just do it.
Yeah.
And I know Ron, too, is involved in a lot. So I think that's a good question for you, too. How do you do it?
How do I do it? A long time ago, I told myself, so it's like when I was growing up, my parents worked a lot, right? And I was playing sports and I was busy with school and other organizations within the schools. And my dad, for the most part, didn't have a chance to watch me play baseball, coach baseball. And as I was growing up, I said, I'm not going to do that. When I get older, I said, and I have kids, I'm going to help with my kids. Not just raising the kids, but be it there's functions. If I could coach them, I'm going to coach them. And I did that. And I did it with real estate too. So coaching. And then after a day of practice or something, you go check in on your phone. And then you've got open house on the weekend. And then you've got other stuff. Josh is very good at this right now. He's, it's a combination of working full-time and being a full-time parent. And it's a lot of work, but it's very rewarding, right? Because you won't know until your kids are all grown. But if you don't do that, I don't know what would happen because I didn't do it.
Yeah, and he was so dedicated that my wife tells me stories that Ron used to take her to open houses with him. So when he was doing things with his kids and he didn't have the time to drop him off. He's like, hey, you're coming with me to the open house, and bring her bicycle with him. And,
Oh, wow.
You know, and he would hold an open house, and he would bring her along with him, which I think is awesome,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I think a lot of times people see it as, hey, it's not business professional, right? You know, to do that stuff. Back then, I do feel like kids always tagged along with their parents.
Yeah.
But I do want to experience that one day where I bring my kids to my open house, because I think it would add a little bit of fun to an open house where people come in and say, oh, this is your assistant for the day. Yeah, this is my son. He's actually joining me, which I just did recently. I brought him to one of my listings and walked him around and had him show me the home. And I recorded it and I posted it on my social media, because I thought it was a good memory that I can look back on and show him when he grows up that you were showing me this home. We were waiting for an appraiser. He gave the appraiser the package and said, here you go. And then, you know, he was just walking around and then showing me the property, almost like he was touring it for the first time, which I thought was kind of cool to see it from my end, like if I didn't know anything about real estate. But I do think that integrating, you know, your kids into those things, it makes it fun. But that just kind of shows his hard work and his level of dedication, is that he was dedicated to being a realtor, but also dedicated to his kids. And then he saw it as, hey, 2 birds with 1 stone. I can spend time with my kids and have this open house. So
Yeah.
I thought that was a great story that Christy told me.
Another quick story is kind of fun. It just came into my mind. There was a cheer competition that it was either Christy or Kelly was at, and I had a stack of cards that I was going to mail out. So I had to put the labels on them, and I had to put the stamps on them. So I had my little box up on the stands, and I was way up in the corner, and I was just putting them away, watching watching the competition, and then being involved. But they're not cheering and not doing it in competition all the time. There's little breaks in between when they're not performing, and when they're performing, I'm watching them. But just so, anyways, kind of funny to integrate that with anything you can do. You know, there's so-called downtime in between watching your kids perform and doing whatever they're doing.
Yeah, and I do think that that Ron was a motivation for me when I first met Ron. It was during the time that he was with Michael, and he was very dedicated to Michael in his baseball activities, taking him to showcases on the weekend and then to his football during the high school season. And I think seeing that, this is before kids, this is when I was just dating Christy. We weren't even engaged at that time. I remember seeing that, and I admired that, because I saw it as like, man, like he's so dedicated to his kids. And I didn't have that all the time with my dad, because my mom and dad were separated. And I was just like, that is awesome. Like Michael doesn't realize how special he is with having his dad involved at all these things. My dad would take me to my soccer games and like practices here and there and stuff. And he was involved. I didn't live with him.
Oh, okay.
But Ron was always around Michael, you know, doing these things. And I was just like, man, I remember thinking to myself, that's an awesome dad.
Yeah.
And that's just to boast about him. I could talk all day about Ron, because I love him so much.
So it's about Irvin today.
Yeah, I love about the person.
No, it actually makes sense though, because like I guess from what the question came from is like, what is our main purpose? You know, like what's like, once again, you said motivation, but I would say more of a discipline, because even when Ron is talking about his past life, it's his wants, you know, like what I've wanted, you know, as a kid, and what I do not want for my kids to experience. Same thing with you, same thing with me. I wanted a car, but I was running. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I'm moving, you know, like I'm at least moving. I can't work, but I'm at least moving. That momentum created other momentums. And I think what you guys are doing is the power of influence, you know, like he influenced you because he saw something that you didn't have at the time. And you're like, wow, like I admire that, you know, like in that for you is like, well, I want to do that too.
100%.
So,
yep. So that kind of brings me to that, like, who was your inspiration when you were growing up?
Inspiration as far as what?
And it could be anybody. It could be, you have a family member, you have something that you looked up to that was your inspiration.
Could be a mentor.
Yeah, it could be a mentor.
Inspiration, I would say it's just family in general. Like I can't say it's just a person. I think similar work ethics that both my parents have kind of integrated both in my sister and me. Like I just like it's still in, like I see my parents consistently just working. Yeah. And for me it's almost like I admire it, you know, to the point where I'm like, if I see anybody that is able-bodied and, you know, their capacity of mentality, it's there and it's healthy, but yet they're lazy, it bothers me because I see my parents coming from another country, not knowing the language, but yet they made it. You know, like they have a house. My mom has her own business. My dad still works construction. It's like if they could do it, why not me? You know, that kind of thing. Like the limitation, like you said, it's based on the person. And I can't say it specifically. I have a person that has inspired me. It's just the family overall, like my mom, my dad, and my aunts that come and visit. They were the ones that would tell me, like, you have to do more. Like there's no other path for you. Like you just have to do more, and that's it. Like
that's how you repay your parents. Is
yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's just like, and it, like I said, I do have a disconnect when it comes to certain people, you know, like I get bothered, you know, like when I see someone that's a little bit lazier or has a point of an excuse for everything. And I'm like, wow, like, I don't want to be around you.
Well, at least surround yourself around the people that you want to be like.
Like I can't see myself. Like I try my best to help out as many people as I can when they come to me, but you can't force people to be like me. Like you can't, like I can't force them to say, hey, I know your future because I see what you're not doing. And for me, I can't do it. Like I get flustered in the sense is like, I'm already seeing what the next 5 to 10 years is going to be like if they keep moving in that direction. But like I said, I don't have a specific mentor or someone that has inspired me. I would say people that I've surrounded with right now currently like have moments in like when you're talking about the houses, like I do appreciate those little things, you know, like when you bring me a energy drink. No one has ever done that. Currently, no one has done that. Since I've been doing real estate, you're the only person. I think I have had one person, but they're just trying to copy off of you. But it's almost like, well, that's Josh's thing now. You know, like I don't want you to do it because he's doing it. I want you to do it because you want to.
It's out of the kindness of the heart.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so you say that you don't necessarily think that you have a mentor, but I see it as you do, and I see it that you do have a mentor with your parents and with your aunts and everybody because. Yes, you're looking at them from that perspective. Maybe you didn't look at it like, hey, they're a direct mentor, but they had a big influence on your life. And like you said, your mom has her own business, your parents have their house, your dad's still working construction and they're busting their tails, right? And they're here making something of themselves. I think that right there is what the definition of a mentor is. And like for me, same thing, my parents, like my mom and my dad are the hardest workers that I know. And they always worked. I never had a parent, and, you know, if they ever lost a job, they were in another job a week or 2 weeks later. There was never a big gap for them. Like I said, when they were out of work, like my dad, he could not stay home. Like he got laid off from a company that closed down in aerospace. And I remember he was just scaling the newspaper, looking in the classifieds, looking at all these different things, applying for jobs because he could not stay still. He is somebody that needs to be productive. Same thing for my mom. My mom, you know, when she was a single mom raising 3 kids in a household, she was working 2 or 3 jobs at a given moment to keep a roof over our head and to put food on the table. And that was inspiration for me. And then I got lucky when I met Christy, my wife, and she introduced me to Ron and Karina. And they've just elevated my life so much, you know, from their inspiration and how hard they both work and stuff like that. So I've had those and I can see them as mentors. And I've told Ron and I've told Karina, I'm like, you guys are a blessing to my life, you know, a positive blessing because it could have been very different. I could have married into a family that, you know, didn't have anything for me that offered me anything that was going to help me elevate my life. And they have been a big blessing in that way. So I do think that you do kind of have mentors there, whether you see it that way. But I do think that that's awesome to hear that part of it. But now going into...
I'm going to touch on that for a little bit. So when I was younger, I thought, who's your mentor? Thinking like of one person is your mentor. Yeah. But that's not true. Yeah. As I go along, I was like, there's a lot of mentors. I learned things from everybody. So it's not like, is any particular person? Well, there are a bunch of them. My mom, my dad, my grandpa. Friends of mine that are really good, other real estate coaches, motivational coaches, everything. I mean, I try and learn from everybody that's out there, and I have. And sometimes you learn things, for the most part, you want to learn things, how to get it better. And you also learn things when you see stuff that they didn't do it right. It says, that didn't work. I'm not doing that. Yeah. This works. Do more of that and get a little bit better every day. So when we work on getting a little bit better every day, I mean, you just can't help but be successful. And success is in the eyes of the beholder, so to speak. And it's like, okay, do I have $1 billion? No, but I've got a great life.
Yeah, I do agree on that. I feel like the idea of comfort is basically just, it's going to hold you to a standard that it might not be good for anybody in the future, you know? I was fairly quiet when I was in high school up to like maybe 28, 27. And I had to get out of that, you know, that idea that I didn't want to talk. I'm just naturally quiet. I want to sit there and basically just hear everybody, but I don't want to speak myself. Of course, podcasting became popular, and I was like, that's cool. Let me try that. It looks scary. And sure enough, like 5 years ago, 6 years, I started my own podcast, but it was out of fear too. It was like, oh, I feel like if I'm going to learn something, might as well do it in a way where I find it attractive, you know, because I like conversations, but I suck at conversations.
No, you don't.
So let me find me find my path of my own voice. And sure enough, I'll look at my old podcast, like the first 2, 3, and I'm like, wow, you're awkward. Like it's
That's
just
how you get better. You got to start.
Yeah, but once again, the momentum, right? You just have to keep just tippy-toeing 1% a day if you really want to get better. Like as far as like the mentorships, I can't say I have mentors specifically. I have more teachers.
Yeah.
Like I would say you guys are teachers. You know, when I come to a house, like I'll make it into a game. I was like, what's the square footage? And then you'll tell me like, oh, 900 or 1200. And I'm like, oh, it's on the west side and it's an HOA. And then and I'll calculate, but I treat it as a game because I have to find something fun in whatever it is that I'm learning. If not, it's unattractive. I'm like, what's the point?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. And it's funny that you mentioned the game thing, because I always ask Irvin, and when we're at a listing, I'm like, what do you think this home's selling for?
Now I'm bad at it. I am really bad at it. I used to be so good at actually like estimating the houses.
Yeah.
But because the house market right now shifted so hard that you just don't know anymore. Houses are pending now. So within the pending, I'm like, I'm guessing it's a little higher.
Yeah.
But because now they're pending, they're now $50,000 below or $30,000 below. But even then, it all depends on the upgrades. It all depends on the location.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of variables now that I have to calculate, but I can't calculate. So it's just moving too fast for me.
Yeah.
And I'm just a photographer. So I'm like,
I love it. I love it. And I love asking Irvin, because Irvin works with hundreds of agents out there. And like I said, he's the number one media company out here in the Antelope Valley, in my professional opinion. I'll go toe to toe with anybody and say that, because I've seen the work that he does. I've seen his team. I've seen what they put out on a consistent basis, and there's nobody out here doing it. But I like doing it because he sees so many homes and different style of homes, different price ranges, and different cities. So I always like asking him. And then when he sees that it goes pending like pretty quickly, and then he's like, wow, you know, like he's like, wow, I didn't expect it maybe to go that quick. Or wow, you got that much money for it. So I always like posting it online, because I know Irvin's going to comment on it somehow, but it's always just a little fun game.
I like that you guys know how to price your houses correctly. I think a lot of the realtors that are coming up have maybe been taught a little bit off of an idea that they themselves don't know who they are yet as entrepreneurs. I would say a lot of the realtors that are coming up, I'm now noticing this, they're doing the same mistakes that the older generations are doing, that they're still having their clients dictate the terms as far as like pricing. And because they are now being influenced by either the family members or Zillow or their sphere of influence, and they're still thinking it's 2022, 2023. And of course, this realtor, of course, you guys are entrepreneurs. You guys don't get a 9-to-5 paycheck. You guys need to go look for that job and then create the momentum. Like, okay, I need to do the marketing, I do this. And unfortunately, a lot of people, they're not an entrepreneur. They're just put in place of the concept of freedom of time and make your own hours, and it's easy and luxurious, and you could wear a suit and drive a Mercedes and drive a Beamer and all this other stuff. So that sphere of influence, I find it now where, because of, unfortunately, misinformation that they've been given, a lot of these houses are now pending. Yeah. And because you guys know the market, and I know that you guys know the market, I know for sure you guys are going to put it at a price point where it's attractive. And from there, it's going to build momentum so that you could get the number that you guys want for your clients, or if not for yourself, if you guys are doing a flip. But yeah, that's the huge difference from what I'm seeing as far as like someone that actually knows what they're doing from someone that thinks that they know that they're doing. Yeah,
I have something to add to that, but go ahead, Ron. I want you to touch on that part when it comes to the appraisals, or to the appraisals, and just like the value of homes and how we list homes. And I'll touch on my part, because Ron taught me a lot about this.
The appraisal package, the appraisal,
no,
how to value a property.
How we value the property.
We take similar homes, square footage, bedrooms and baths, upgrades, location, and what homes have sold for, what homes that are currently in escrow, homes that are currently for sale, and use as much data as we can. We don't go by what Zillow says or Trulia or Redfin or Homes.com. They have their own algorithms that they've never seen the house, so I'm not sure where they get their values from. Because even if it has like 20 houses that are built the same in the same neighborhood, each one of them's got their own special, features and benefits and things like that. And the condition and upgrades that they're just not exact. They're kind of like punch an address into an algorithm and says, "Oh, there's your value." It's like, well, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, but lots of people think it does. Just like what Zillow said, my house is worth
Yeah, they
X
don't
amount of dollars.
calculate that the house smells, that there's no carpet.
That backs up to a busy street.
The pool is green. They don't have those variables.
Yeah. And that kind of adds me to my point. So when Ron taught me how to list the home, and how to determine the value, similar to what he was saying, our goal is to get our clients as much money for the sale of their home.
Absolutely.
But bottom line, that is our goal. But within that goal, there is strategy to pricing a home, right? And for us, it's like you're going to do a disservice to yourself. If you're a seller looking to get as much money as you can for your home and you list it at the maximum of what homes are selling for in your area or even higher, and let's say there are other homes that are nicer that have sold, it's not going to sell. It's going to sit, and then what's going to end up happening is that buyers are going to start to think one or two things. The home is overpriced or there's something wrong with the property. And then what happens is the home sits for 14, 15 plus days, 30 days plus, and then they end up getting offers that are a lot less than what they were expecting to get if they would have just listed the price correctly. So not to get into the full strategy of exactly what we do, but our goal is to get our clients as much money as possible. Our strategies that we have in place that we implement here at the Higher Advantage gets our clients the most amount of money for the sale. But we also have a strategic approach to it. When we put the home on the market, that it's going to show well, people are going to want to see the home. And like we said, we don't concentrate on Zillow, Trulia, any of those things because it lacks the ability to compare the interiors of homes to other homes in the area. So it may be going off of data that it has, but it does not have the ability to compare internal homes of upgrades, features, amenities that my home offers compared to other homes. So that's where the human factor, the agents, the realtors that are experienced, they will go through every single photo of those comparables that they're comparing it to. And they'll say, hey, this home has this home has that. I have a whole Excel sheet that I break down with 7 to 10 different properties compared to my client's home. And I have plus, minus, and it's a plus or minus approach, and what we take with getting our home listed at the price that it's at. So,
and if there's certain things that the homeowner can do to make it a little bit better, they don't have to rebuild the whole house. But 3 main things, right? Fixing the landscaping, right? Because you want that curb appeal from the street, and then paint it, whether it's inside or outside, and then flooring. Other than that, you don't have to like put a new kitchen in, put a new bathroom in. If you've got them in, that's going to add value. But adding them after the fact, just like putting in a bathroom, will add value. What's that net ROI, right? What's that return on investment? If it costs you $20,000 to put in a new bathroom, but you're only going to get $10,000 back on it, that's a bad investment, right? Just like a pool. If I put a pool in, is it going to increase my value? Yes, it's going to increase your value. You're not going to get your money back, okay? Paint, flooring, always.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Have you guys ever turned down a client as far as like if they didn't want to budget as far as like when it comes to the actual pricing of a house? Because I feel like that's one thing that a lot of, even myself, I've had to learn to say no.
Yeah.
Because my value is my time and my value is knowing what I'm doing. But sometimes because we're so eager to do certain things, because like, oh, I'm getting more business, my emotions they don't go in the logic sense. I'm like, so I'll say, oh yeah, I'll give you a discount, but then of course the expectation of the delivery is not the same because now I'm yelling at myself in my head. I'm like, why'd you do that? Like now you're gonna do all this work and you're not going to sleep and you're not, like you said, my I guess the return on investment is not going to be what I wanted.
Exactly. Yeah. So for me, I have a perfect one. I had a gentleman reach out to me that wanted to sell a property in this neighborhood. It's a well-known property out here in the Antelope Valley. Just for specifics, I'm not going to go into the details of who this person is or whatnot. But I met with them and I told them, I said, hey, based on this home, it was a new constructed home that they built from scratch. I said the home would sell at this price, and they laughed and they said, no, it's well worth $800,000 plus. And I'm like,
Or he said that you needed to see his vision of where it's going to sell.
Well, no,
It is
yeah,
like,
no,
oh
no,
my
no,
God,
no, no, no,
really?
no. He said that no. So he laughed, and then I told him, I said, I'm not going to set a false expectation of what you're thinking you're going to get for your property, and it not sell there, and then you're going to think it's a reflection of me. And I said, I am here to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, and that's okay. If our mindsets don't align on that, that's okay. I'm perfectly okay not taking the listing for that purpose. And he said, I need a realtor that sees my vision and knows I can get that much money. And I said, you want somebody that's like a yes person. You know, I said, I'm not that.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where it ended. I said, hey, I appreciate the time. You know, thank you for meeting with me. I hope your home sells at that price. I left. That home sat on the market for 1.5 years.
Wow.
He ended up taking right around the price where I originally listed. That's where I ended up selling.
Yeah.
It was like over $150,000 less of where he originally started.
Wow.
So in my mindset was, if we would have listed it at that price from the get-go where I had suggested it when the market was still really hot at that point, it probably would have sold a little bit more, you know, with the marketing and everything that we put into it. But because they had an expectation of getting this amount and it just was unrealistic at that time, there were no comparables, nothing that would even amount to that. You know, they decided to go a different route, and, you know, I'm happy it worked out in the end for him. That you know, he probably did not get as much as he wanted to get for the property, but he was able to get it sold. Okay. You know, but you know, it took him 1.5 years to do that, you know? So those are the kind of stories. And it's like, when I go in and we meet with people, we level set the expectation. You know, I don't want to ever set an expectation for somebody to say, this is what we're for sure going to do for you. And you know, you're going to get this amount just so I can get a listing. There are agents out there that do that.
Too many.
Yeah. I will not do that.
There's too many.
They'll say, hey, yeah, we can get you 600,000 for your home when they know that their home will sell at 525.
No, there's way too many. The only reason I bring it up is because I deal with most of the realtors out here, and I'm not trying to talk shade about anybody because they're my clients, you know? But I do feel like there's a lot of, unfortunate, maybe because you have the guidance of, Ron to guide you through as far as like, hey, this is realistic and this is not realistic, or maybe instinctually you just already had it.
It's more instinctual. Like Ron taught me how to run the comparables, how to do those things, but just the years of experience doing it. I'm in my 10th year now, and I'm a real estate broker, such as Ron is.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. It's just the years of doing it. You just learn, and you know what works and what doesn't work. And it's just that you hope that who you meet with, they see your vision and understand it and know that you're looking out for their best interest, whatever it may be. Yeah. But I also understand that not everybody's meant to work with everybody, and not all personalities mesh. So I always tell people, before we even move forward to a contract, just say, hey, I went over everything. Are you good with moving forward with everything? You want time to think about it, no pressure. And if you decide that, hey, that our personalities just don't match, that's okay. Yeah. You know, I'm okay with that. Like there's no hard feelings. So that's the way that we operate.
No, I agree. As far as even the personality, as far as like who you're going to be working with, is a big representation as who you are as well. And I'm actually really happy that you guys started the podcast, because I feel like a lot of the ones that are actually pushing, you know, their own agendas or their own narratives or their own information. For me, it's something like, well, I know certain people within your category of work that do a lot more, but they don't post anything. And so nobody really knows them as far as like how I know them. So just the concept of doing this, I'm really happy that you're extending your voice, besides maybe your referrals or the data that you've collected throughout the years. Because I don't know, like I enjoy every single time I see you guys. Like it's almost like, oh, it's Josh or it's Ron. And then I'm like, I'm happy to go to these listings, but then I have other, you know, realtors. I'm like, oh, okay, well, you know, it's just I feel like, unfortunately, maybe because we're humble, or maybe because we don't want to be, maybe it's our self-consciousness, as far as like we don't want to give out bad information, or we don't want to seem like we're the gurus, and maybe that's what's unmotivating for us to actually push more marketing. Like, and I've been learning it myself too, because I hate putting my face on camera half the time, unless it's podcasting. For some reason, podcasting, it's become so easy for me to actually post anything.
Yeah, you're great.
But when it comes down to like actually putting my phone in front of my face and like, hey, you guys, today I'm going to be walking around this property, and this is what I'll do first before actually going and shooting this house. For me, that's off-putting, because it's not. I don't feel genuine enough, and I find that it's a must to do, but I haven't done it where I'm putting it in place on my day to day because it's not who I am.
Yeah.
Like, so if I do it, it's almost like there has to be a purpose behind it.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be some sort of information that I'm giving out because maybe someone wants to hear it. And it's just not just me putting my face, because the algorithm is going to tell you post 3 times a day. And then on your stories, you have to put 6 stories, and you have to put your personality, and then you have to put text, and then you have to do this. So it's almost like the machine is now having us to cater to its personality rather than us catering to our own personalities. And that's why I want to congratulate you guys on the podcast, because I feel like it's the best way to actually getting to know you guys in a more genuine level.
Yeah, 100%.
Thank you. That was the purpose, right? We wanted to share our knowledge, learn from other people, great business people, photographer like Irvin. And so with that being said, if someone wanted to get a hold of you to do any kind of business photography at all, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you could visit my website, www.inviewmedia, and then media, my bad. www.inview and then /media.com. Or if not, Instagram is Inview Media _. And I believe we have a TikTok, but I never use it.
Yeah.
Well, we'll add those to the links.
The description. Yeah.
And then one last thing, what's next for Inview Media? I know that you always have big visions with things that you're doing and stuff, and maybe things that are in the works that you can't quite discuss right now, but just kind of curious what's next for you guys.
Yeah, so for me right now, I'm rebuilding the team again. During COVID, I was already building it, but I feel like because I was rushing everything and I was the first time becoming a boss, I didn't really know how to delegate personalities, and I didn't really know how to understand what it is to be a boss. You know, I was like, my expectation as far as for me, it's for me, but I didn't know people had their own mindset as far as like their work ethic, their value, the moralities. And I had to learn the hard way because I didn't have a mentor. Like you have Ron to kind of like guide you through like the to-dos or the what-nots to-dos. Like as far as like if you're going to mentor somebody, you already have some sort of an idea of a system. Mm-hmm. I had to create a system that unfortunately it failed. You know, for me, I failed at the time because I didn't put the expectations as far as like who I was bringing in, as far as like, these are the things that I need to put in place verbally and also written. You know, like those are things that I didn't understand yet, but now that I do understand, and it took me a minute to actually even want to rebuild a team again. Cause once you have a team and then it almost like puts a bad taste in your mouth, it's almost like in my head, I'm like, do I really want to do that again? Like, do I really want to deal with another photographer that is willing to do X, Y, and Z, or whoever comes in and is entitled to this money that they haven't earned, or entitled to my clients that they haven't built up to? And for me, it's just like, I don't have a choice. You know, like if I want to grow, I need to delegate. And it's unfortunate for anybody that wants to grow a team or wants to grow a business, you need to learn how to delegate. And those are the things that I'm now doing. I'm like rebuilding the team so I could delegate more to them. And I'm now going to be working like actually on the business rather than for the business. And of course I have the photo booth business, which has just started in December. I do want to do more commercial work as far as like, not just for real estate. I have 2 law firms that I'm currently working with. And I believe I have a dental office too. So I want to do more commercial for actual businesses, which was always my idea of doing in the beginning. But unfortunately, because of COVID, it kind of like, they didn't have budgets, you know? And I could have pushed it a little bit more because now that knowing what I know now, I could just been like, hey, everything's data. Everything's online. No one's going to come visit your office. We need to make sure that your office is being presented where they're still able to visit. We need to start a calendar. But those are things that you learn through experience, of course.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
For sure. Doing good?
All right. Yeah. So one last thing we like to end every podcast on is a motivational quote, because there are a lot of quotes out there that inspire and motivate. And for me, one of the quotes is "Be the change you want to see in this world" by Gandhi. I live by that. That's kind of who I drive, or what I drive to be, is what I want to see, the change in the world. Very impactful for me. Ron has a lot of quotes. He's very big on positivity and quotes. But what's the quote that means a lot to you?
I'm not sure where I got the quote or if it's even a quote. I just heard it from some random location online. The person said, what did I say? Or what was it that he said? They said, the only guarantee of not succeeding is to quit. So
that's impactful.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah, super impactful. Yeah, because if you quit, you'll never succeed.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah, you put in the time that you need to get things done and to succeed. There's no other way than succeed.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
The one that I used to use a lot, and I visit different ones over time, but there's a special one for me, and it goes like this, and Josh has heard it before. It goes, that which does not kill you makes you stronger. So like failure is a good teacher, and so you got to get past it.
Yeah.
You got to get past it and look like, hey, there's the light at the end of the tunnel. Just go there, and when you get past that tough time, things will get better.
I agree. And I want to say one last thing. I think Ron has a really great voice. He should start narrating books, because I feel like I could hear him on my car, like CarPlay, like whatever book I'm reading or listening to. Like I hear Ron's voice. Like,
and you could keep listening to it.
Yeah, I could keep listening. I'm like, man, you have a really good voice.
Thank you. But I listen to stuff on my headset, and it's like all AI. So I think that job's gone.
No. It's still there. It's still there.
Yeah, AI is not quite there.
It's not quite there for sure.
All right. Well, very good. Thank you, Irvin.
Yeah, thank you, Ron.
I appreciate you coming in.
Thank you,
It was
Irvin.
great. All right. So, do we have anything else?
Yeah, you want to mention the next episode and when this episode should be airing?
In a couple of weeks. All right. We're gonna promote it. We're going to
Edit it.
Edit it. We got to edit it. And we may have another guest coming up in a couple of weeks, so that'll be good.
Yeah, we already have a backlog of exciting guests that are coming on the show. So stay tuned for future guests. But we were happy that we were able to get this done with Irvin. Irvin, thank you so much for your time, and looking for all of Inview Media's success in the near future.
Right. So we're gonna like and subscribe if you do like this, and remember, for higher expectations and higher standards, choose the higher advantage: real estate, sales, and service. Take care. Be safe out there, and have a great day.
Awesome.
There we
You want to hit that?